all of the recorded music in history takes up about 1.5 petabytes of storage space. We already have 10 or 20 times that capacity currently available on the Autonomy network. So the infrastructure, the distribution, that can and should be owned by artists. There's just no need for gatekeepers anymore.
Impossible Futures is about what we can create if we're not constrained by the landscape of the current internet and what it's become. What if we start with the end in mind and not just iterate on what we already have? This podcast invites experts working at the coalface in a variety of domains to challenge us to dream big, starting with that end and build the future we want to see, not just wait for it. But today I sat down with someone who's in the midst of doing both. Nick Koteskey is a musician, serial entrepreneur, and one of the first founders to be building on top of Autonomy. And we sat down to talk about everything from autonomous networks being a reset switch for the music industry to how we can rewire the internet in the pursuit of truth. Hi, Nick, and welcome to Impossible Futures. You're not a stranger to autonomous networks, of course, nor to me or Autonomy, and because you've been at the sharp ends of these things for many years now. And of course, with the Impossible Futures Challenge now too, building propositions, supporting music and creativity. I first came to know you as a fellow music industry veteran or refugee, maybe, who was striving to build something better. But why don't you give us a bit of your background and what led you here?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me on the podcast, and I'm really excited for Impossible Futures. And my name is Nick, though many online know me as Nigel. I grew up in a small town. I was always drawn to science and technology, futurism, art, and music. As a teenager, that's when I really got into music. I started playing in bands with friends and writing all original material. I fell in love with punk music, and the punk ethos really helped shape my worldview. So not just in music, but in how I approach politics and other systems, including the importance of questioning authority. So as you can imagine, I can be a little bit of a pain in the ass sometimes, but probably to my father as well. But he actually served as a huge inspiration to me. He's always been a huge influence, a lifetime entrepreneur. Started and ran his own businesses, so that's something that I kind of want to carry on. I think he still holds the record, actually, for the most patents where I grew up. So proud of him. Eventually, I stumbled across Bitcoin and Made Safe through the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast. That podcast actually, it was so informative. I love that podcast. People really should go back to that. Adam Levine, Stephanie Murphy, Andreas Antonopoulos, shout out to them. They're great. Obviously, the cypherpunk movement that really, created Bitcoin in all of the, previous technologies, Hashcash and all that. But that cypherpunk movement really appealed to me and planted the seed. So I started learning a bit about America's monetary system, going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, learning about blockchain. But what really locked me in, though, was the Safe Network, which I also, learned about from the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast. And it led me to the Safe Network forum, where I just met some of the most amazing people having just great discussions. There's lifers on there that are still around today, and I love it. We're still all connected, so it's great. Obviously, Safe Network eventually rebranded to Autonomy. And it's not commonly known, I think, amongst the crypto crowd, but or acknowledged, really. But this project was envisioned pre-Bitcoin by David, the founder, obviously. It was the first or second ICO ever, next to Ethereum. Was the first non-blockchain network design. So there's a lot of firsts, even influencing Hollywood in two different instances, which really didn't get the coverage that it deserved, to be fair. The road obviously was a lot longer than I think we all anticipated, but we're here now, right?
Yeah.
So what excites me the most, I think, about autonomy is that it lowers barriers for creators, whether that's musicians, app developers, or small businesses. Building an app with zero server costs or need to manage passwords or security, and getting paid directly by the network based on usage. No need for ads, tracking, or data mining. A lot of that stuff is what really inspired me to build on autonomy.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I too became acquainted with autonomy and the potential as tech through striving to build a better music industry, both for creatives and audiences that allow us to imagine the concept of an internet where creativity is the goal, and where art is valued, and it's not just a hook for clicks. So
Absolutely.
what does that look like to you, and what is the big challenge that underlies it all?
Well, lately I've been questioning the need for music labels at all. I mean, musicians, producers, studios, venues, sponsors, if they can all connect with each other like a Tinder for the music industry, where artists have full creative control, I think that addresses a big problem, a big concern where creativity is really the goal. Also, trying to adapt the current system, I think, would be a huge challenge. And it likely wouldn't be well received, I don't think, by labels. So I think a fresh start would probably be more realistic. And but without labels, as another empowered middleman, artists would have way more revenue, way more control, like I said, creatively. Everyone involved could be a direct stakeholder pulling their own weight. At that point, I just don't see what necessitates a label. They're just antiquated, in my opinion. I also don't understand how open source or donation dependent projects like the Internet Archive, Wikipedia, or Music Brains just let big tech train AI on their data with the intention of benefiting financially and just replacing them. What are you doing? Join autonomy. Get the network rewards and data preservation that you deserve. So I guess that would be one that I have.
Oh yeah, and I should mention, I should mention to everyone that our guests, I've asked if they could bring three problem statements, if you like, so pressing areas that are ripe for deconstruction, reconfiguration, thanks to the possibilities of autonomous networks. So if to you out there, if you want to get your hands dirty and join the community via our Discord, you can get stuck in. There's even $100,000 and many more network tokens ready to support and reward you for taking up the task. So, but okay, so lay another one on us then Nick. Number two.
So probably complacency of the general population. The internet was supposed to be this decentralized power and knowledge network, but instead we ended up with like 5 companies controlling 70% of cloud infrastructure and a few platforms dictating what's visible, what's profitable, and what's real. So I mean, right now the open internet really is just kind of an illusion. But more to my point is the new internet autonomy is going to be just downright convenient for the everyday person. So if you just kind of close your eyes and imagine for a second that instead of signing up for every app or service and managing your passwords and emails, you instead have a single login to the internet itself. You one-click sign in to everything, right? You migrate all of your data from Twitter to Blue Sky or vice versa with one click. Your single internet sign-in has a wallet attached, okay? You add products to a singular shopping cart that spans the entire internet. Your website or blog can automatically and instantly collect network payments or donations directly into your internet wallet, and all of this without the fear of data breaches or server overload. I mean, who wouldn't want that? That's like that appeals to everyone.
Yeah, and that is the advantage. And even to your point there, one-click migration from Twitter to Blue Sky. In fact, why not mix and match them both? If we have the ability to keep that data all in one place, these platforms can just rotate around us, not the other way around. So,
right. I mean, realistically, you could even have that data across multiple apps. To your point, I mean, you could be tweeting on Twitter, and it could also be going directly to Blue Sky too, right? Or an equivalent on Autonomy.
Yeah. Yes. Well, there's the opportunity right there. Come and build. One more then. What's the third challenge you wanna highlight?
Third would be lack of online privacy rights in an increasingly digital world. Personally, I don't think that privacy is just an individual preference. To me, it's a fundamental human right. Unfortunately for the everyday person, the tracking is invisible to them. It's so out of sight, not of mind, and unbeknownst to them, the severity of it, that it's just the last concern in a hectic day-to-day life. So, but I do think that people are catching on, though. Everyone that isn't crazy about online privacy, like us, has probably experienced this, but you mention something or someone in casual conversation, and the next time that you pull out your phone, there it is, right in front of you, like dark magic. So, but now let's be straight. I mean, there's an element of convenience there that could actually be useful. However, what is creepy and ultimately concerning about that is that you never consented to this. You don't know what information is gathered and how and what to extent, where it's stored, and who has access to it, right? So obviously the answer to that is kind of grim, a grim reality that we are the product. So big tech is just constantly kind of making digital clones of us, our likes, interests, social connections, search queries, locations, routes, places of interest, literally anything that makes you. And they sell it to data brokers and advertisers for a profit, and it's big business. So I personally get pretty disheartened when people kind of just shrug it off and say, so what, to online privacy, as if they're uninteresting or they have nothing to hide. That shouldn't matter. Well, why aren't we in control of our data? Why can't we make the choice to share and profit from what we want on a granular level that is ours, fundamentally? Mm-hmm. At the very least, we should be paid for our data, if not our attention as well. And I think having that choice should be a fundamental right. And if we really want to look where this could be going, if we're not already there, the problem isn't just corporations tracking us. It's governments weaponizing that data to control populations. So right now, China's social credit system ties online behavior to real world privileges. The West might not have an official version of this yet, but deplatforming, financial blacklisting, and algorithmic bias already create a similar effect. So the solution isn't just better regulation, though obviously that would help. It's building systems where mass surveillance isn't even possible. And that's why autonomous networks like Autonomy are so important.
Yeah. And precisely like you mentioned as well, just being able to actually realize the value of the data that we've left in the hands of these businesses and corporations. They're the ones making money off it. It's now we have the ability, we're on the cusp of being able to realize that value for ourselves. So, yep, exactly. Another great challenge. And so across all three here, there is probably one bigger connective issue, one impossible problem, if you will. And if you see that Gordian knot, what is it? What would you like to untie if you could across all of these areas?
We're in an era where everything is contested. Elections, science, even history. I mean, the internet was supposed to democratize knowledge, but instead it kind of just created an ecosystem where attention equals profit. And our perception of reality is really just kind of whatever the algorithms feed us, whatever we're really choosing to see. And echo chambers are a huge problem. The rise of AI generated misinformation is about to make this like exponentially worse. And I think the really scary part is because it's had such a huge leap in intelligence recently, I don't even think we would notice it. There's a chance of that. So to me, really solving that problem, a real solution would probably involve verifiable digital provenance at the hardware level, meaning that every image, video, and document could be cryptographically signed as authentic at the point of capture. So there's actually this neat little retro-styled camera called the Leica M11P that does something like this, and it actually follows these specific guidelines of the Content Authentication Initiative. So some companies are working on things like this, but it really needs to be like a global standard, not just a proprietary feature. If we had decentralized identity verification and cryptographic truth verification embedded into the internet itself and devices, not just for like journalists and, and cameras, but maybe in actual phone hardware. Everybody's got a camera on their iPhone or Android. It wouldn't eliminate all misinformation, but it would shift the Overton window, I had to throw in a buzzword there, toward it being a reality and in the public's eye. So I guess really to sum that up, I would say that the Gordian knot that I would untie would be the preservation and pursuance of truth. And one way that autonomy can be applied here, as you've exemplified in the past, is the perpetual and immutable data of some data on autonomy that can be visibly navigated for any alteration or version. For example, a news website. So anytime that there's a minor change, they might be trying to rewrite history. Well, you can scroll back through the versions and actually see, well, oh no, they actually said otherwise. So I think that is something that's really applicable as well.
Yeah, the future of history, as it were. Coming back around again to our home base for both of us, the music and entertainment industry. Is there a silver bullet there?
A silver bullet for the entertainment industry? Well, the entertainment industry has really always been a gatekeeper economy, whether it was record labels, movie studios, or streaming platforms. If I could redesign it from the ground up, I'd create a system where creators are directly compensated by the network itself, based on usage, no middlemen, no licensing hurdles, no monopolistic platforms dictating terms. In fact, all of the recorded music in history takes up about 1.5 petabytes of storage space, I believe. We already have 10 or 20 times that capacity currently available on the Autonomy network. So almost unbelievable. But so the infrastructure, the distribution, that can and should be owned by artists. There's just no need for gatekeepers anymore. So utilizing that, just imagine a music economy where every stream, share, or remix directly credits and pays the artist, right? Where AI generated music doesn't drown out human artists because there's an actual merit-based system in place. Autonomy is uniquely poised with the deduplication of self-encryption being a global public key infrastructure where every user has a unique ID or identity. Beyond that, I mean, Autonomy's native micropayments, that's going to be, coming up near term, and the decentralized content hosting that it currently has make all of this possible. We just need to build the apps to leverage it.
Yeah, and obviously privately with privacy and security baked in from, the ground up. These are the kind of things that get me excited, and that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And I know, we all feel it. It's like, as a species, can be a bumpy ride sometimes, especially at the moment, a bit of a roller coaster, but there's so many amazing things happening and often unseen. So what sparks that excitement for you?
Yeah. I mean, despite everything, I'm optimistic. We're at a tipping point where people are starting to wake up to the reality that the internet needs a fundamental redesign. AI, blockchain, decentralized networks, all converging in a way that could probably shift the power away from the current monopolies, and people just don't really trust institutions anymore, and probably rightfully so. I always kind of geek out on future tech too. So robotics, full self-driving cars that communicate with each other for safety, advancements in energy, longevity science, personal and private AI, and of course a certain decentralized autonomous network that can enable or support these advancing fields. And how these things all better help humanity is what really gets me excited. So there are going to be moments of turbulence, but obviously there's going to be displacement from robotics, and it's going to be a tough time, I think, for a lot of people. So we're definitely going to see that turbulence. But once we get over those hurdles, I think once people see what's possible, especially with a network like Autonomy, where individuals are actually empowered, they won't settle for less.
And where do you think they currently might be settling for less? Where do you think we're going to be able to have the ability to make the most impact?
I think somewhere where everybody's settling for less, and I mean, I feel like everybody in their own country is frustrated with their medical industry. It's almost like a competition globally, like who has the worst healthcare, right? So it would be kind of a hard thing to pin down, but I would actually go with the medical field or the medical industry. David Irvine, the founder of MadeSafe, has often pointed this out. So I'd give him 100% credit for shaping my personal opinion on this. But in the future, AI can have access to every medical image or scan, have knowledge and be trained on every previous diagnosis or circumstance. And that could happen globally, especially on a global autonomous network. So being able to access that knowledge instantaneously, right, for AI to diagnose any singular individual, that's not something that a singular doctor can do. They just don't have that capability or that knowledge of everything, right? You can't compute that as a human. There's no team of doctors that could be that effective. And that's not to say that they don't have a place or AI is perfect, but that is something that could positively impact everyone, but it just currently does not. And I think David himself is interested in improving this arena through autonomy and AI, but I would definitely encourage other people to seek this out and join Impossible Futures and really try pushing this arena forward. I mean, for the betterment of all humanity.
Nick, thank you for being here with us today and for laying out these challenges and, of course, rising to meet them yourself. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jim, for having me. It's been an absolute honor, and best of luck to everybody out there.
Thanks for listening. If you want to take up the challenge alongside Nick of building this vision, head to impossible-futures.com for all the detail. And if you like what you've heard, please do tell all your friends directly. Or if you must, hit that like button and feed the algorithm until we've finished building something better.